Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Prep Life Podcast. This is your founder and CEO of Glam Girl Bikini, Amy Enger. And today I'm joined by Coach Lee Marie Hostetter. Welcome to the show. Lee Marie, how's it going?
It is going great. It's great to be back on the show.
Yeah, so we're just going to do a reflection of the past year and then kind of goal setting for the new year. We all have, holidays coming up here. And with the new year, it's always good to just, I feel like, think about the past year, kind of what you've accomplished, what, you know, you can be proud of, whether it's personal, fitness, whatever it may be. So I've encouraged all of my clients this year to reflect on their accomplishments. So what they're most proud about in 2023. And then I challenged all of them to kind of summarize it in one word, which is not an easy task to do. If you have to summarize an entire year in one word, think about that. What would that be for you, listeners? And then another really great practice too, along with that, is just once you've kind of looked at, okay, these are the things I've accomplished. Now, what I want to be able to say, I'm proud of that I did in 2024, and kind of summarizing that in one word so that you have
Mhm.
a focal point to kind of look forward in the future. So that's kind of what I pushed my clients to do. I did it myself as well. And I just felt like it was a really good practice for me. Just to kind of, do an audit of like, okay, what did I actually accomplish? And then what am I looking forward to strive for in 2024? So, what are your thoughts on that?
I love it. I really want to hear what yours are. Are you going to share them with us?
Well, I am glad to do that. You're kind of putting me on the spot. I wasn't ready for that.
Well, you
But
can't give us this whole explanation and then not give us an example.
yeah, so I mean, if I think about what I accomplished from this year, I feel like the word resilient
Mm.
really sums up a lot of what happened to me personally and professionally in 2023. So resiliency, and some of the things I'm proud about personally is kind of coming back to the church and renewing my spirituality with my family. My daughter's been a huge role in that, in getting me and my husband back to church. So that's
Mhm.
been really something that's been super important for me personally. And then just fitness wise, I have, you know, this year was more about my clients and kind of focusing on my career and all of that. And I feel like I really accomplished what I set out to do with like my clients and just taking them to pro qualifiers and getting top placements pretty much for every single one of my clients this year. So, and then just like first timers, medaling in every category. Those were some goals that I had personally. And, I've been quietly working on a goal that I've kind of set aside for next year. So, yeah, I kind of want to keep that one private for
I love
now,
it. I
just
love
because
it.
I don't wanna let the cat out of the bag as far as, like, what I'm doing, but definitely it's a new venture for me in fitness
Mhm.
this coming year, and I've kind of been quietly working on that. So I've just taken a lot of time to just still, like, work on my craft as far as, like, my own physique and, I have not missed days in the gym
Mm.
unless it was a scheduled rest day, um but yeah, so it's been, like, a little bit of a shift, but I'm excited for my goals coming up here in March and April. So, yeah. How
I
about you?
love it. Okay, so my word, I love that you made us do this exercise too as your athletes. Because like I know everyone probably already knows this, but Amy is my coach, even though I'm a coach as well. And so it really forced me to kind of reflect on the whole year. And so my word was awareness. And like I wanted to say self-awareness, but that's kind of two words, but it's basically the same. But I feel like I found out a lot by failing this year. I feel like I did a lot of things wrong and learned from I kind of learned things the hard way this year. I had a really grindy prep almost wanted to quit like so many different times throughout the year because my body was just not making the progress that I felt like it should be making. And so there's a lot that I learned about managing stress, prioritizing recovery, taking days off. I learned this is like retroactively or retrospectively or whatever the word is, like looking back, that I'm going to try and implement this coming year. I didn't do a very good job of implementing it this year, but looking back, I'm learning that I need to prioritize managing my stress. I need to prioritize recovery, rest, really good nutrition, eating more, like actually practicing those things versus just grind, 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 push, 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 chug energy drink and handle it, go to the gym 7 days a week, hour and a half of cardio, like all this kind of stuff. Your body is not going to respond the way that you want it to respond. You're going to just stretch yourself way too thin and, work yourself sick. So I think I've learned a lot about like being aware of my body and the things I need to do to slow down and to prioritize recovery. And then looking into the next year, my word ever since I got my feedback from my last show, my word and my goal for 2024 is density. And I mean that for building muscle and just being consistent with everything, but also in the areas of my life like my relationship, like you mentioned, with going back to church, like my relationship, my faith, my relationship with my family and friends, just different aspects of my life where I feel like the feedback that I got from the head judge, Becky, was that I had good structure, I needed density. So just keep going. And I feel like I have good structure in all of those areas of my life. And the goal is to keep building density and see each one of those things deepen, build more quality muscle, work more on my, building my career, building my coaching, building my athletes, building my faith, building my relationships with friends and family and things like that. So that's my goal for 2024.
I love that. Yeah, that's great. When I think about relationships, I just want quality over quantity. I've always been that person where I just want to dive really deep and getting to know like just a small group of people and have just really quality relationships. And I feel like, that's so cool that you are translating that to like workout and life because it's so true. Quality over quantity is so much better in my book.
Mhm. Absolutely. Yeah, I've really been focusing a lot too. I started doing this year, but even more so next year, my intention, just as from a gym standpoint, is to focus less on quantity, like not
Mhm.
only like the amount of times, sessions, hours I'm in the gym every week, but really making the time count. And then also not focusing so much on the amount of weight that I'm pushing, but on the quality of each rep and each like mind muscle
Love it.
connection and that stuff like that.
And that will create some density in those muscles. So that's
No.
a good one. Yeah, so I encourage you listeners to try to do the same thing. I think it's a really good practice. I think, when we think about New Year's resolution, we hear all the stats about people that, 80% of those resolutioners will fall off by February. And so you might find the gyms are super packed in the beginning of January when everybody kind of is highly motivated after the new year, after the holidays. They've maybe put on some weight. And then those kind of fall to the wayside after a couple of weeks when real life kind of hits and we have the monotony of different things. So Lee Marie and I are going to go over some different tricks and ways that you can goal set. And the first one we're going to talk about is habit stacking because habit stacking is such a good way to get a new type of activity started by pairing it with an old. So, tips that I've done in the past when I think about habit stacking, I think about, like if I were to see, like, okay, I really need to work on posing and I'm not putting this in my daily routine when I need to. So I weigh myself every morning on the scale, so I would put my heels next to the scale. So I'd habit stack that. And then I really did start working on posing every day because the scale thing was something that I already had automatically programmed in my brain to do first thing when I woke up. And so pairing that with that habit, I was able to pose every day as well. What's one example that you can think of off the top of your head that you've had to habit stack a new practice with an old to make it successful? Can you think of any? I can give
Well,
some examples that I have written down here too
yeah,
of just
you
like random
you give
ones
some well,
while
I
you're thinking.
actually your first one about listening to podcasts and or YouTube videos doing your cardio,
Mhm.
that one is one that I have put into practice. I have actually I'll save YouTube videos, my favorite YouTube videos, and I won't let myself watch them unless I'm doing cardio. And that actually makes me, or steps, that makes me look forward to my cardio or steps
Cool.
and actually want to get it done. So that's definitely one that I've put into practice.
Yeah, I have a couple examples here, just kind of like generic ones. So, like for example, if you're a coffee lover and you hit the gym, like you're trying to incorporate getting to the gym consistently. This isn't maybe exactly like a prep lifer because I'm sure none of us have trouble like getting motivated to get to the gym,
Mhm.
but some people are. Um, so, using that caffeine to kind of like boost your performance. So, thinking about that and what I do. And I mean, obviously, I'm going to eat my breakfast every day. Like, that's a non negotiable, but I'll put my cardio before I eat so that when I'm really hungry in the morning, I tell myself, "Okay, I'm not gonna eat my breakfast until I get my cardio done," and for some reason, that really motivates me, so
Mhm.
that might relate well to prep lifers. Another example I have here listed is just, like, if you walk your dog daily, you can make it, like, more of a, like, interval jog. If you're trying to incorporate some more cardio, it'll help your dog, with their getting outside like they need to every day, and it kinda gives you a built-in accountability partner, but if you know you're gonna walk them anyway, then maybe, like, set a goal, like, maybe it's used to be, like, you took your dog out just to go to the bathroom, but now you're saying, like, "Okay, when I walk them, I'm gonna make sure I get at least, like, 1,000 steps when I take
Mhm.
them out." So,
I have
um
another good one. So
yeah.
I started doing this I think this year, but my I have this habit of the first thing I do when I get up is I make coffee and I drink coffee first, and I wanted to be the person that drank water first. So I now have a shaker cup of water that I keep in the fridge, and while I'm making my coffee in the morning, I put in my creatine, and I know I have to take my creatine every day into the shaker, and then I will either put in I have these little electrolyte packets that are stevia sweetened, so I'll put in one of those to flavor it, make it taste good, or if I'm not doing electrolytes, I'll just use my BCAAs, which also taste great. And then I will finish that. My goal is to finish that 32-ounce thing of water, by the time I finish my coffee. So I don't necessarily drink all the water before I start my coffee, but both of them are done before I leave the house. And that also helps me get a head start on my water too. And then right next to my coffee stuff that I make, I have my vitamins. So the different supplements that I take from First Form, my vitamins, anything else that I need to be taking at that point, and that just helps me remember and be consistent. So that's a way of habit stacking because I look forward, like I will literally look forward to my coffee as I go to bed. I'll be like, I can't wait to get up and have my coffee. Um, but it makes me accountable to get water in and to take my vitamins too and get my creatine. So,
Yeah, other just traditional things that you do every day, like brushing your teeth. I
mhm.
know for me, like when I brush my teeth at night, I immediately foam roll after. And that was a
Ooh.
habit stacker that I had paired a long time ago. And I continuously do it. I have it now programmed in my brain and you just have to like use those neural pathways
Yep.
to kind of get that habit formed. And then once you get it formed, and then it becomes, just very
Mhm.
habitual and easy to do every day where you don't have to use brain power to think about it. So, yeah, every time I brush my teeth at night, I foam roll right after. And
I do vacuums while I'm brushing my teeth, like stomach
oh,
ab
nice.
vacuums. Yeah.
That's really good. I love that. Okay. So, As far as creating exercise goals, so it's super important. And I know I've talked about this on this podcast a million
Mhm.
times about SMART goals. So specific, measurable, achievable, or attainable. The R is like realistic or relevant. Both
Mhm.
words can be used interchangeably. And then the T is time sensitive. So I'm going to give you guys an example. Basically, like if I just say, for instance, I'm going to exercise more,
Mhm.
that's not really specific. You have no idea, like, okay, how much more, like, there's not an easy way of tracking that. But if you specifically say, I'm going to walk 30 minutes a day for the next month, then the walking is specific from a time standpoint. And then
Mhm.
if you say daily, it's very measurable because you know
Mhm.
if you do it or not. And then achievable 30 minutes. I think anyone can do 30 minutes of movement a day versus like 3 hours. And then relevant. So walking is very low impact. Most populations can do that. And, for competitors or just general population, it's a healthy habit to get into to make sure you're doing steps. And then time bound. So the entire next month. So like
Mhm.
30 days of 30 minutes of walking, you can see that it's tangible. You know if you met it because of the specificity of it. I don't know if I said that word right. But
Mhm.
anyway,
We got you.
um,
We understand.
yeah. So anything to add on SMART goals?
I mean, I definitely think they're they're smart. They're it's necessary. I mean, you have to, in order to do something, you have to know what you're doing, how long you're doing it for, why you're doing it. I think the relevant or realistic, one is really important. Like, how does this relate to your life? How is this going to benefit you? Make a goal that's specific to your goal in life. Like if you want to get more fit, you need to have a goal that's specific to, fitness or to health or whatever those that might entail. If you want to be more toned or more strong, you might want to have a specific resistance training. Like get specific to figure out what it is that you want and then how you can get there.
Yeah. And I mean, in the prep life, it's, you might have lagging body part that you want to focus more on.
Yeah.
Maybe your feedback was that your waist isn't as small as it needs to be, or you didn't have good core control. So you need to have a daily ab vacuuming goal and things like that. Um, so some of the benefits of this habit stacking, one, it's going to improve your consistency. So it's going to be much easier to be consistent. It's going to be a better way to track progress. It's going to increase your motivation because you're going to actually see the results
Mhm.
by, doing that consistency. It really boosts your motivation. And then it just reduces procrastination. So, delaying, skipping things, there's really like you're not going to skip brushing your teeth, hopefully, every day.
Yeah.
So clearly that's there.
Mm.
So those are kind of some of the benefits. And then challenges and overcoming them. Did you want to kind of go over some of that, like common obstacles and things
Mhm.
that come up?
Yeah, yeah. So I love the point about motivation. And lack of motivation is often due to unclear goals or lacking progress. And so as we put these goals out, as we are consistent, we're going to make progress. When we see progress, we get motivated. So I think a lot of people think that they need the motivation first, but really the motivation comes as you're making that progress. And so I love that point. And so if you have lack of motivation or your busy schedule, you just keep putting things off. Some tips to overcome that would be to set clear, achievable fitness goals. So lose weight. If so, how much? What body fat percentage in what amount of time? Is it getting better eating habits? Is it to improve your strength? Is it to improve that one lagging body part that you got feedback from the judges for? And if you have a clear and achievable goal, then, once you start getting to work and start seeing progress, then that motivation will follow. And then another tip is to prioritize physical health. Treat your workouts like any other important appointment. So, prioritize, maybe write down some long-term reasons why your physical health is important to you. And I'm thinking like 10, 20, 30, 40 years down the line, why is your health today important to you then? Establish a routine. Consistency is key in forming habits. This is one reason I love a daily goal, because if you miss one day, that is easy to track. If you have a goal that's like, well, I'm going to exercise 3 times a week, it can be easy to put it off, to procrastinate, still to, let your schedule get away from you. If you have something that you have to do every single day, prioritize that. It just makes it easier to check it off and you never want to miss a day. And then hire a coach or an expert in the area of your goal, to support your goal. So to provide you with that accountability, to help you recognize if your goals are smart, if they are, attainable, if they're realistic, or how to lay out a timeline, how to do those steps, and really just support you in your journey. I definitely recommend that one.
Yeah, so I think after you've done the reflection, so you've kind of like done an audit of this year, and then you project like what big goals you want. And I would encourage everybody to kind of like hit the major categories. So like, you know, finance, education or knowledge, your personal relationships, like family, friends, social life, spirituality, if you feel that way. Your fitness goals obviously are important too, like your career, you know, hit those major categories and like some things that you want to long term accomplish for next year in 2024, and then use these smart goals as tools for the minutia to like chunk them down. So I feel like all great things happen in just ordinary practices every day, and I know that that's like the answer that no one wants to hear, but the minutia of just being the same boring habits every single day is what gets you the long-term win. So you have to go into the big, hairy, audacious goal with the expectation that this is going to take time,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of putting that scaffolding together through using the SMART goals, you can kind of feel those daily wins, even though like you're not getting the feedback all the time. So you may not lose weight if that's your goal every week. You may not lose the inches you want. You may not build the amount of muscle that you want. You're not going to always see that progress. So we can't really rely on that as like, are we doing well through the
Mhm,
results? So through
mhm,
the habitual practices, the daily boring stuff that you are going to do, that's going to lead to the greatness. And it's just those people that can do it repetitively day by day, every single day, like live
mhm,
within that 24 hours, really
mhm,
accomplish and win that day. All of those days are going to stack up to getting there. And there's going to be days that you're going to hit bumps in the road and things like that. But again, if you can have that resiliency where you just keep going and you keep trying your best, um, that's where success is found. It's just in like the nitty gritty, everyday, boring stuff. So, all right, if you are struggling or you've come across an obstacle, I have a couple of tips here. I'll start with the first one, and I've already said it, but just set smaller, attainable goals, and by doing that, it's going to help you achieve what you're wanting. So, um, in this example, they say, like if you're planning on writing a book, you want to aim to write 300 words a day. You want to chunk it down so that eventually by the end of the year, you will get there.
mhm,
If you're starting your running journey, you're not going to go out and like try to run a marathon on day one. You're going to want to work towards maybe like a 5K. And then like after, 6 months, like a 10K and things like that. So just make sure that, you again have those like that scaffolding so that it's like building up to that certain point. A lot of competitors they'll have and spoiler alert, our next episode is going to be about show planning, and I think that that's a really important thing to do now when the NPC and the IFBB are kind of taking a break until the Arnold in the end of February. It's important right now. We have like the national shows out there, so you can kind of build like based on what you need to do for the next year, you know, with those goal dates in mind, and kind of reverse engineering these goals. So we'll get more into that in our next episode. But do you want to take number two for how to overcome obstacles?
Yeah, I love this one. Number two is to have an end goal in mind. So that's why I love the reflection on 2023 and looking forward to 2024 like every year, because like you said, you're not going to lose weight if your goal is to lose weight, you're not going to lose weight every day, right? But if our goal is, to end 2024 having lost weight, that's a much more realistic thing to keep in mind. But what I also love is I've done this my last couple of preps, is every time I'm running sprints or doing really hard cardio, I literally will envision myself on stage, and I envision myself going through my posing routine, all of those things. I mean, you could do this when you're training or whatever, but sprints are just sometimes hard for me mentally to get to really, really push myself. But getting that vision in my head and like imagining my last show, imagining my next show, walking through my posing routine and seeing those judges look at me, it's so motivating to push yourself and go hard. So envision your goal. If you're a competitor and it's the show, envision yourself on the stage, play that out in your head while you're working out, while you're doing your cardio. Let that goal drive you. Imagine the people around you, those girls that are standing next to you in that line that are working just as hard or harder than you right now. Let that drive you to push yourself even harder in the middle of your cardio and your workouts.
Yeah, and number 3 is just avoid multitasking by deeper work. So, just really compartmentalizing on, like, certain times where you're setting aside to focus on one thing if it requires, your utmost attention. So, an example that I would say would be really prevalent is if you have your phone with you while you're working out, I would highly recommend that you put it on, like, airplane mode or silent, especially if you're one that has to look at your phone for your workout
Mhm.
guidance,
Mhm.
because a lot of times I'll find that, I'll start responding to text messages that clients are giving me, or like I'll see a notification on Instagram or whatever it is, and I get distracted when I really need to be focusing on my workout and my lifts and my mind muscle connection and keeping my intensity at the gym. And if I'm trying to respond to people, like they can wait, I can have this hour to myself where I can completely clear all responsibilities, and it will be more efficient that way. I will be
Mhm.
able to respond in a more focused way to my clients if I set aside time to respond to their texts or, their messages in the portal. And I set aside that time specifically for that. Um, then it makes me more efficient as a coach and as an athlete. So,
Mhm. I love that. So then the last one is to exercise your willpower. So scientists believe that one's will can actually be fatigued just as muscles become weak after too much activity as well. There's a couple of things that I do to exercise my willpower. So I think one of them is to actually work it like a muscle. So one thing that I do is if my brain comes up with an excuse, like again with the cardio, if I'm running sprints and I could get away with just doing one more sprint and sort of it's basically 20 minutes, right? Or I could fit two more sprints in. If my brain tells me I could do one more today, immediately, because my brain tried to give me that excuse, I'm going to go back with, nope, I'm going to do two. And the next one is going to be even faster. Like I have to step it up. And that is my way of like working that willpower muscle. And then the other thing is just to be aware of throughout the day, if you've been making decisions and exercising your willpower all throughout the day, it might be fatigued by the time you get to your workout at night or something like that. And so try to save save willpower on decisions that could just be automatic, make them habits. Don't even exercise or use willpower on things like, should I cheat on my diet, or should I work out or not? Like, just have those things written down. They're goals, you're going to do them, you're not even thinking about it. Save your willpower for when you really need to use it.
Yeah, and I think, there's been studies that actually show where if you have a jar of cookies out,
Mm-hmm.
um, that you're much, much more likely to actually eat those cookies later in the day, just because every time you look at them, you have to physically, like mentally say no to them just by looking at them. So, kind of that out of sight, out of mind, it really is
Yep.
true. And make it easier on yourself and your willpower muscle by not having to make that decision like about a candy jar,
Yep.
sitting there. Because by the time you, like you said, once you've worked all day and you're exhausted, you've made a bunch of decisions like at your job, and then you come home and you see those cookies on the counter, it's much harder to say no to them by having them um, out in a visual place. But that's
Mm-hmm.
just like one example there.
Mm-hmm. That's a great example. I love it.
All right. So reflection is so important. I encourage all of you to, once you set your goals, to really just check in with yourself every week. I know with us, with our athletes, we have our athletes tell us what their wins were for the week. And so I think it's really important to, just as we end and wrap up this episode, to remind yourself that you also need to celebrate how well you did that week. And everybody has something that they can be proud of, especially if you're really being intentional with what you're doing. So make sure that you are also checking in with your goals and kind of monitoring your progress, and celebrating that every week. So with that, we will end this episode. Thank you so much for listening. If you'd like to tag us on your story or find us on Instagram, you can go to at Prep Life Podcast or at Glam Girl Bikini and find us on IG. Or you can find us on our YouTube channel if you would like to watch the video and you're currently just listening to it on audio on Podbean or on Apple Podcasts. We would love it if you gave us a rating or review. That just helps other people that are interested in the same topics to find us. So if you find it in your heart, please pay it forward. And if you would like to join the team, you can go to glamgirlbikini.com and hit the get started button. This is your founder and CEO of Glam Girl Bikini, Amy Enger, signing off with my co host, Lee Marie. Thanks for listening, guys.